Okay.
All right. Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen of the press. We'd like to welcome all of you here in the office of Senator Abraham A.D Dillon of Montserrat County. Our senator today will be speaking on a wide range of issues, but particularly the situation with D15 Radio. You are all welcome. We now join Senator Abraham A.D Dillon. Senator, it's all yours.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the press. Welcome to this media interaction. We ask you specifically to interact primarily because of the issue with the government of Liberia through the Ministry of Information and Bourgeois Radio, known as D15 98.1, with the threat of shutdown and all these things that's happening connecting with Henry P. Costa. D15 Radio want to make it clear that we are a law-abiding institution and we will do nothing to go contrary to the operations of law, the ethics of journalism and broadcast, and the core value of our service to the community. D15 entered into an agreement to host the Costa Morning Show. We lay it on D15 from 7:30 to 9:30 every morning, Monday to Friday. We did so understanding that we have a responsibility ourselves, meaning D15, to a civil society, meaning civilized conversation, mature, and something that is pleasant for the radio. We agreed with Mr. Costa, Henry P. Costa, that the D15 has a standard, and that standard of being responsible, mature, will be upheld. And so we guaranteed and granted Henry Costa the space on the radio. The Ministry of Information, the government, placed several telephone calls, having seen the advertisement of Henry Costa on the social media. The Ministry of Information placed several friendly calls to D15. They said that the calls were friendly and that they wanted to inform the station that Mr. Costa should not be placed on the radio because he's a critic and a fugitive. And we thought that was not sufficient enough to deprive not only Henry Costa but the public the right to be informed, the right to free speech, the right to express sin. The same evening on Sunday, the government through the Ministry of Information issued what we believe and view to be a threat against the operation of the station. Amid the issuance of the threat, the ministry asked for a meeting with the management of D15, that which we honor. And in our meeting, we were clear that we will not sit and allow the government of Liberia to censor and determine the editorial policy of an independent institution. We are legally registered, we are operating under the ambit of the law, and we will enjoy such rights and privileges in as much as and so long we will remain under the ambit of the law. The Minister of Information had informed us that Costa, Henry P. Costa, is a fugitive, and that being a fugitive should deprive him, deny him the right to express himself. The management of D15 of the government was very laughable, because if an indictment is sealed, that means it is not public. That means nobody knows, including the person being accused or indicted. How can a sealed indictment, somebody who is said to have been indicted, secretly become a fugitive from justice? The government needs to answer that. And so at the end of the meeting, we have said to the government, what we can do as an institution, D15, is to allow you time to display the indictment of Mr. Costa, the charge, the arrest order from the court, from which Mr. Costa is alleged to have fled the country, and then we'll pick it up from there. Until then, between now and Wednesday evening, at the close of business day Wednesday, if the government has not done so, the management of D15 will make a determination as to putting Costa on our radio. What we thought the government would do was to do the most mature and civilized thing, common sense approach. Sit with the management of D15 and ask the terms and conditions under which Mr. Costa will be heard on the radio, and maybe have some understanding with the management as to the kind of content that may be coming from Mr. Costa. But to arm twist and to censor, to determine how an independent private institution will operate is totally unacceptable. And some people think that this is a defiant posture on behalf coming from D15. No, it is not defiant. It is only standing up to what is right and standing up against what is wrong. Just because you are a government does not give you absolute right to violate the right of anybody or any institution. The Constitution of Liberia is clear. Article 13, 15, 20. Everything you want to exercise authority over, especially when you want to deprive a right, fundamental constitutional right, it must be done by due process. It is the same thing that the government is doing, running from critic, running against critic, for which the government is practically, in a political manner, depriving the operations of Punch FM, whose owner should be Patrick Horner. I would like to use this occasion to call on the Chief Justice of the Republic of Liberia. The Supreme Court should not be aiding and abetting the violation of people's rights, because the court, the judiciary, is the place for relief when your rights are being violated. There's a maxim in law that says, justice delayed is justice denied. The Supreme Court, in my view, has not demonstrated any justifiable reason or good sound reasoning as to why they delay in finalizing and concluding the Punch FM case that is before the Supreme Court. We want to call on the Chief Justice to summon the courage and put that case up for ruling, to grant the relief, legal relief to Punch FM, so that it can be clear as to whether they can operate or they can't operate. This government granted operational license to Punch FM. The lower court acknowledged that. The Ministry of Information, which is supposed to simply grant the permit. One branch of government cannot grant you license to operate, and another branch of another entity of government that's simply supposed to issue you the permit to operate, and will be depriving and denying you because of politics. It is wrong. We need to stop it. And so D15 is not in defiance of any instruction from the government, but would not take kindly to threats, would not yield to threats. The government has made no case against D15, and so between now and Thursday, the government has not shown any tangible, legal, logical, reasonable reason as to why we should aid and abet the deprivation, denial of the rights of another citizen, whether home and abroad, will make a determination to put Costa on the radio. Being a fugitive also does not mean you are guilty. There's a difference between criminal, legal prosecution and political persecution. A.D Dillon are deemed the action and the act against Henry Costa by the government of Liberia to be political persecution, witch hunting Mr. Henry Costa because of his critical stance on societal issues. And my view can be justified. Henry Costa is not the only Liberian citizen that is broadcasting from out of Liberia into the airspace of Liberia. So when the government makes what I believe to be a lazy argument that Costa's presumptive out of the bailiwick of Liberia will make it difficult and challenging for anybody to take legal action against Mr. Costa for any injury he may cause by what he may air, then I thought the government would just do a holistic thing by saying all other persons living outside the bailiwick of Liberia and broadcasting in the lands and the space of Liberia should also desist, because those people are themselves not reachable. So you can see clearly the vandalization of Costa Radio Station, the Roots FM, the seizure of his property, even the magistrate in the lower court, in the ministerial court, who declared that the manner of seizure and vandalization of Costa's broadcast equipment was violation of the law. That magistrate was removed from that court the very day by the president. So all of these things you see is political persecution rather than legal prosecution. And we would not aid and abet the government in violating the rights of anybody, not even Henry Costa. And lastly, when somebody is being legally prosecuted in keeping with law and the Constitution grants it, and you cannot deny or deprive it, anyone accused of a crime is presumed to be innocent until proven guilty. To tell me and my institution not to air the view of a citizen who, even if was legally charged, properly charged in keeping with legal prosecution, and say this man should be deprived exercise of this right because his ongoing investigation, are you suggesting to me that the right to be presumed innocent is taken away until proven guilty? No, we will not aid and abet the government in its knee-jerk and impulsive reaction to things. And so D15's position is between now and Thursday, Wednesday evening tomorrow, by the close of business day, we'll make a determination on the Costa issue. And that determination will be to air Mr. Costa.
Thank you. So, since the senator didn't speak from a prepared text, we will give you the opportunity to at most ask 5 questions or less. We will ask that you call your name and the institution you represent before asking your question.
Thank you, Senator Dillon. I'm Fezeli Sumo. I work for Prime FM. Senator, the government statement as issued on Sunday says that the government has issues with Henry Costa as an individual, and they're warning D15 from airing Henry Costa's program on their radio station. D15, I understand, is in business with Mr. Henry Costa to have his program aired. Is D15 taking Mr. Costa's quote-unquote issues with the government on their shoulders and fronting for him in this case, because I see D15.
Basically, I don't understand where the question comes from, but let me say this. The Supreme Court of Liberia ruled in recent times that candidates vying for the office of senator were eligible to contest even though their matter was still in court, because they are not being adjudged guilty. That means the Supreme Court is upholding the presumption of innocence until proven guilty doctrine. The government will not be allowed to, in a tyrannical way, use D15 to violate that right and go against even the ruling of the Supreme Court to uphold that doctrine of presumption of innocence until proven guilty. If the government has issues with Costa, the government knows the channel. When somebody is a fugitive from justice, the government takes several steps to demonstrate that. And my experience from being in the prosecutorial arm of government for 11 years, I don't need to go to Louis Arthur Graham's School of Law to know that. When somebody flees from justice, legal prosecution, and not political persecution, the government seeking to prosecute that person for a crime allegedly committed takes steps. One, indict the person if it is an indictable offense. Then the court writ of arrest warrant is issued. When it is to be served, and the person who is accused knowingly evades justice and goes to an unknown place, then the government that's seeking after that person takes the first step by informing Interpol. Interpol is elected, and they put an APB, all-point bulletin, on that wanted person. When that does not succeed, and the government is aware now of where the person is in another country, and the government has extradition treaty with that country where the quote-unquote fugitive is, the government takes steps to effectuate or put into action the provisions of the extradition treaty. This government has done none of such. There is no indictment. There is no writ of arrest from the court. There is no Interpol alert. There is no attempt for extradition. And this government knows where Costa is out of the country. They know his address and all. So that means they know where to find him. And where to find him, Liberia has extradition treaty with that country. None of such is on record. And then you tell me that as you agree, just because you order somebody, you brand somebody to be a fugitive, and then I must agree? No. D15 is not taking the government and Costa's issue as our responsibility or headache. D15 is simply doing business with a customer. We're giving 2 hours of our airtime to somebody who wants to relay their show and then pay for the airtime. You want to deprive my business from doing business, and especially so getting profit? We will not tolerate it. The government, believing that it has an issue, would not proceed in the way it's proceeding. They thought they could intimidate the station and bully us into submission. They got it wrong.
Yes, sir. My name is Sherman from KMTV. I'm concerned that you coming up in somehow in defense of D15 as a politician. The question is, why is a politician coming in defense of a media entity?
I'm board chair of the station, and I have every right to protect. Just like I protect the ordinary citizens, I got a right to protect that institution operating under the confines of the law.
Yes, thank you, Honorable. My name is Hagar Gona, and of course I represent Truth FM. I would like to know, with the issue of D15 and of course Henry Costa now, looking at what is going on now, D15 race being closed if they violate or they insist on carry on broadcast with Henry Costa. Are you aware as board chair that you will be losing business, and are you prepared to lose your business because of an individual?
No, it's not because of an individual. It's not even about Costa. It could have been anybody. Do you believe that the government is proceeding right? I'm sure you won't answer because you are a journalist. But the government is clear. The government even knows that it is wrong. It proceeded wrong. So what it wants to do now, you know, that arrogance when you now blunder and you don't have the maturity and the common sense wisdom to say, okay, I think we can come back to the drawing board to do it a different way and a better way. The government lacks the courage to take that kind of approach. And so it will proceed in a way that will make it even worse for the government.
Yeah, okay, my name is Yam Tituba, report for OKFN. Well, basically, there's these documents circulating on the social media, specifically believed to be the other lesson about D15, and the government is saying that that document has expired. In the first place, what with institution whose license has been expired is seeking for another individual who have committed crime to appear on their radio. Could you speak to that?
Trust me, if the government knew and believed itself that D15 is illegally operating, it wouldn't be looking for fugitives. It would use the legal route that, oh, you're not operating correctly. It wouldn't even measure up a Costa. You understand? The government has done every investigation to know that D15 is not operating illegally. Let me say this. Permits are issued annually. The current permit expired December last year. Not even 1 month. This government gives up the March to every media institution to renew permit. And without wanting to push it further, I don't know of any media institution that has renewed their permit for 2021, including George Weah, Kings FM, and ERBC. I'm sure OK FM itself. No media institution has renewed because everybody have up the march. And the fact that you were legally operating when the permit expired and you have a window opening of the march does not make you operate illegally. The government cannot come after D15 for illegal operation. Second reason, the license on which we are operating is very much up to date, 5 years. The Ministry of Information renews the permit every year for the sake of media censoring like this, and for the sake of collecting money from media people, from media institutions. Every year you gotta go pay something to a ministry to renew your permit. You got 5 years operational license issued by government. Then another government institution say you should renew it every year. But those are the regulations and law issues that we think we should start looking at the Capitol building rather than holding the Ministry of Information for implementing the law that the legislature authorized them to operate on. But D15 is not operating illegally, and the government itself knows.
Take this video.
So, my name is A.D Dillon. I report for Green Coast TV. I listened to you on OKFM this morning. If I got it clear, you said that you met with Minister Fagon prior to the release. And if so, were there prior arrangement before the release?
Come again?
I heard you on OKFM this morning that you met with FACOM.
The Ministry of Information, headed by the Minister of Information.
Prior to the release, right?
Yeah, I said on OKFM, I hope you listened to me. Probably you heard me. I said Minister FACOM called the manager of the station and said that he was placing a friendly call to say that the government has issue with Costa and that the station shouldn't air him.
Yeah, so was there any negotiation that you come out before the come out?
No, they only said we shouldn't put Costa on the radio.
Okay.
Now, if you don't want me to put Costa on the radio and I agree, just like that, you will tell me next time who else not to put on the radio.
So I want to know, last question, right?
Mm-hmm.
The government saying that your radio station shouldn't relay Costa program, and you are saying you give the government 3 days ultimatum. What does the law?
No, I don't know where ultimatum came from.
Okay.
Look, we are a responsible institution.
Okay.
At the meeting, we said, first thing you need to demonstrate that Costa is a fugitive. At least between now and Wednesday, do so. Where the word ultimatum came from is left to people who interpreted it that way. But let me also say, the government is just reckless and foolish with this matter, like it has been with a lot of other matters. So if Costa or anybody who the government let to hear put their show on the social media, and somebody in the community put loudspeaker for the whole community to come here, what the government will do? Will arrest that person? Or go take out the speaker plug? Why you run beyond something that you don't have control over? Common sense must come to bear. Sit down with D15 and ask, look, Costa is quote-unquote polarized, or he bipolar, and some of the worst of the economy, people are supposed to be talking these things. Here we are talking here in Costa because that's what the government wants. It simply says that this government has no agenda. They do everything knee-jerk reaction. It's impulsive, and this childishness needs to stop. Yeah.
Thank you.
Last
Thank
question.
you.
Last concern from the lady.
Okay.
Senator Dillon, my name is Cecilia Obligley-Clark, and I report for State Broadcaster, ELBC, LNTV. The government has come up with a release of a statement, and you as the board chair is also coming up with a statement. My question is there room for negotiation, like by inviting international or civil society organizations or the Interreligious Council to intervene in this matter? Is there room for
we have
dialogue?
always been reasonable. We are saying that the approach by the government is dead wrong. We will not endorse it. We will not accept it. We will not tolerate it, so that it can be used as a precedent to come after your institution as well, or any other institution. Let me say this again. Common sense. This government always loses the opportunity to get things done and right, simply because arrogance, limitations, ineptitude, and this knee-jerk reaction to everything. Justina Taylor is at the hospital. Costa on his radio, he said, all those who from COP will go for Justina because the government want to arrest her. The government wants to persecute her. And people go to the station, to the hospital in numbers. I'm there as well. I approached the police commander. Sir, what's the issue? Now I'm seated as senator 2 months in office at the time. Sir, what's the issue? The commander of the police assigned at the hospital says, we are under instruction to take Justina Taylor to the police station for questioning. She's not under arrest. She's a person of interest. We're inviting her. Now Justina is just about to be released. Since they can't arrest her in the hospital, they're waiting for her to come out. And there is a crowd out there wanting to resist it. So I'm there. Let's use common sense approach. Mr. Commander, can you let me take Justina? Let the crowd here see that Justina going with me and that she's okay. And they will go home. 2 o'clock, I will drive Justina to the police station. and then you can have your person of interest. What it would do, it will avoid, it will prevent potential chaos and violence. The commander thought it was good. He placed call to higher authority. Once they knew that it was me involved, in their heads, when Dillon drives out of there with Justino, Dillon's political morale will grow. I didn't go there for morale. I'm a member of this government as well. We should all act in a way that it will help to maintain the stability and the peace. And if a potential violence is on the horizon, and we can intervene to avoid it, common sense. 3 hours after, when the crowd got larger and the government could not contain what was happening and it started becoming violent, then the government came back to my suggestion 3 hours later. But what they did, they turned Justino over to quote-unquote civil society man 3 hours after. But I see civil society man was there 3 hours ago, before, when they insisted that they would carry Justino to the police station the way they wanted to do. We were just there to ensure that it didn't go out of hand. We are members of the government as well. And if we can help to avoid chaos and violence, common sense. But you know, until we, especially the executive branch, learns how to take some common sense approach to some of these things, they will always put the country on edge. So right now, all of you, including in all of the communities, probably even outside of Monrovia, outside Liberia, is going to be Costa, D15, the government of Liberia. All of you will start talking about this matter to see whether we'll put Costa on the radio on Thursday, right? Why all this distraction? Why all this distraction?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.